calm, vast, cosmic dread opening. Title: Horrifying depictions of megastructures in fiction. Working SEO. Title options. 1. Why fictional megastructures feel so terrifying. Cosmic horror. Essay. 2. Horrifying megastructures in fiction. The fear of being too small. 3. When architecture becomes a monster. Megastructures in fiction. Hook. There is a particular kind of fear that does not come from being chased. It does not have teeth. It does not scream. It does not even notice you. It is the fear of standing in front of something so large that your mind quietly gives up trying to measure it. A wall that disappears into cloud. A machine the size of a city. A tower whose top is not hidden by distance, but by meaning. A structure so old, so vast, and so indifferent that it makes your entire life feel like a temporary accident happening on its surface. That is what makes fictional megastructures so horrifying. Not because they are big. A mountain is big. An ocean is big. The night sky is big. But megastructures are different. They are not nature. They were made. Deep, controlled, existential dread. Which means, somewhere, there was an intention large enough to build them. A civilization large enough to use them. A purpose large enough to justify them. And then the worst question begins to form. If something this enormous was only a tool, what kind of being needed it? Intro fiction has always used size to disturb us. Castles, temples, towers, labyrinths, spaceships, artificial worlds, endless cities. These are not just backgrounds. In the best stories, they become psychological pressure. They tell us where we are in the universe. They tell us how small a person can become before they stop feeling like a person at all. A monster can kill you. A megastructure can do something worse. It can make your death feel irrelevant. This is the horror of scale. When we see a fictional megastructure, we are not only looking at architecture, we are looking at a thought too large for the human body. We are looking at evidence that the world was not designed around us. We are looking at a place where our instincts, our stories, and even our sense of importance begin to fail. Deep, controlled, existential dread. And that is why these structures stay with us. Because somewhere deep down, we know the scariest place is not always a dark room. Sometimes, it is an endless one. Section 1. Size becomes horror when it breaks the body. Human fear is built around human scale. A doorway is understandable because we can pass through it. A room is understandable because we can stand inside it. A street is understandable because we can cross it. Our bodies teach our minds what the world means. This is near. This is far. This is safe. This is too high. This is too deep. This is too large. Megastructures attack that relationship. They present spaces that the body cannot negotiate. Corridors that seem designed for something taller. Machines whose smallest parts are larger than buildings. Cities stacked above cities, until the sky stops feeling like an opening and starts feeling like another ceiling. The human body becomes a wrong unit of measurement. And once your body stops being a useful measure, your mind starts to lose its authority. Deep, controlled, existential dread. This is why a giant door can be more frightening than the creature behind it. A door implies a user. A stair implies a foot. A chair implies a body. A hallway implies movement. So when fiction shows us architecture on an impossible scale, it does something quietly cruel. It makes us imagine the thing it was built for. Not directly, not fully, just enough. Enough to feel that human beings are not the default shape of intelligence. Enough to feel that we may be insects, misreading the furniture of gods. Section 2. The horror of purpose ruins. are frightening because they are evidence of absence. A dead city tells us people were here. They worked here. They slept here. They believed this place would last. Then something happened. But a megastructure intensifies that feeling. It does not simply say a civilization existed. It says a civilization had ambitions beyond anything we can emotionally process. It says they built on a scale where individuals no longer mattered. That is the first true horror. Deep, controlled, existential dread. Because when a structure becomes large enough, it stops feeling like shelter. It stops feeling like invention. It starts feeling like ideology made physical. A pyramid is not only stone, it is hierarchy. A tower is not only height, it is domination. A city that covers a planet is not only urban design, it is a civilization that has run out of outside. Megastructures in fiction often horrify us because they reveal a purpose too cold to comfort us. They were built to extract, to control, to observe, to contain, to worship, to escape, to survive something even worse. And each possibility is disturbing. If it was built to control, then someone was worth controlling. If it was built to defend, then something was worth fearing. If it was built to contain, then something was too dangerous to destroy. If it was built to escape, then the builders were running from a catastrophe large enough to make planets feel disposable. The structure becomes a fossil of terror. Not the terror we see, the terror that existed before the story began. Section 3. When the setting becomes the monster. Deep, controlled, existential dread. In ordinary horror, the monster enters the space. In megastructure horror, the space is the monster. This changes everything. You cannot stab a city. You cannot reason with a labyrinth. You cannot hide from a structure that contains the horizon. The threat is not movement. It is presence. This is why endless buildings, impossible ships, artificial planets, and abandoned superstructures feel so oppressive. They do not need to attack. Their existence is already an attack on human certainty. They surround the character with a single message. You are inside something that does not need you. That sentence is terrifying because it removes drama. Most horror gives us a relationship with danger. The monster wants us. The ghost remembers us. The killer follows us. Even hatred gives us a kind of importance. But a megastructure does not hate you. It does not notice your fear. It does not adjust to your presence. It will not become more meaningful because you suffer inside it. And that indifference is colder than cruelty. Cruelty still recognizes you. Indifference erases you. Deep, controlled, existential dread. Section 4. Fictional megastructures and cosmic dread. Cosmic horror is often described as the fear of the unknown, but that is only part of it. The deeper fear is not that we do not know something. It is that knowing it would not help. A megastructure can create that same feeling without showing a single monster. Imagine a ring world circling a star. Imagine a city buried so deep, its lower levels have forgotten the sky. Imagine a machine still operating after its creators are gone. Imagine a station so vast that entire societies are born, live, and die without ever reaching its edge. The horror is not just scale. The horror is implication. Something understood physics well enough to bend worlds into architecture. Something had time scales that make human history look like weather. Something treated planets the way we treat bricks. And suddenly, the universe feels less like a home and more like an abandoned construction site. We are not standing at the center of creation. We are standing near someone else's machinery, hoping it is no longer running. Deep, controlled, existential dread. Section 5. The fear of being inside a system. There is another reason megastructures disturb us. They resemble the systems we already live inside: cities, governments, corporations, algorithms, supply chains, apartment blocks, server farms, road networks, bureaucracies. Modern life is full of structures too large for one person to understand. We live inside systems that feed us, track us, employ us, sort us, price us, recommend things to us, and quietly decide what options appear in front of us. Most of the time, we do not see the whole machine. We see a screen, a bill, a hallway, a deadline, a form, a notification, a locked door. Megastructures in fiction externalize that feeling. They turn invisible systems into visible architecture. Deep, controlled, existential dread. The endless city becomes the fear of never escaping the economy. The giant machine becomes the fear of being processed. The artificial world becomes the fear that even nature has been replaced by design. The tower becomes the fear that power is vertical, distant, and unreachable. The labyrinth becomes the fear that confusion is not a mistake, but the point. This is why these stories feel modern, even when they are set in ancient ruins or distant futures. They are not only about impossible architecture, they are about life inside things too large to argue with. Section 6. Abandoned megastructures. The horror after greatness. An active megastructure is frightening because it suggests control. An abandoned one is frightening because it suggests failure. And failure at that scale is almost unbearable to imagine. When fiction shows us a dead megastructure, it asks us to consider a terrible possibility. Maybe intelligence does not save anyone. Deep, controlled, existential dread. Maybe even the civilization that could build this still collapsed. Maybe even the species that conquered planets could not conquer time. Maybe even the builders of impossible machines became dust inside their own masterpiece. This is why abandoned megastructures feel haunted, even without ghosts. They are haunted by competence. Everything about them says someone was brilliant, someone was organized, someone had resources, mathematics, labor, discipline, vision. And still, they are gone. That is a different kind of horror. Not chaos, not madness, not evil. Failure. The quiet proof that greatness can become debris. A small abandoned house is sad because a family left. An abandoned megastructure is terrifying because a world left. Section 7. The religious feeling of scale. The largest fictional structures often feel religious, even when they are technological. This is not accidental. Human beings have always used architecture to manufacture awe. Deep, controlled, existential dread. Cathedrals lift the eye upward. Temples compress the body into ritual. Monuments turn power into stone. Towers make hierarchy visible. Scale has always been spiritual propaganda. It tells the body to kneel before the mind has decided to. Megastructures take that ancient trick and push it into horror. Because when something is large enough, it begins to feel sacred by force. You may not worship it, but your body responds as if you should. You lower your voice. You slow your steps. You feel watched, even when there are no eyes. You feel that the space has rules you do not know. This is why fictional megastructures can feel like temples to dead gods. Their size creates reverence. Their silence corrupts it. The result is not wonder. It is worship without comfort. Section 8. Why beautiful megastructures can be more disturbing. Not every horrifying megastructure looks ugly. Sometimes, the most disturbing ones are beautiful. Deep, controlled, existential dread, perfect lines, impossible symmetry, endless clean surfaces, cities glowing under artificial skies, structures so elegant they feel less built than ordained. Beauty can make scale worse, because ugliness gives us permission to reject something. If a place is rotten, we know how to feel. If it is broken, we understand the warning. If it is covered in blood, we know we should leave. But beauty confuses the instinct. A beautiful megastructure asks for admiration while quietly destroying your sense of proportion, seduces you into awe. Then awe becomes submission. Then submission becomes fear. This is one reason fictional utopias often become frightening when they are too large, too clean, too perfectly designed. A perfect environment can feel inhuman because imperfection is one of the ways humans recognize themselves. No mess, no accident, no decay, no personal mark, no evidence that anyone small ever mattered here. That kind of beauty does not invite you in. It edits you out. Section 9. The megastructure as a body. Deep controlled existential dread. Some of the most horrifying fictional megastructures blur the line between building and body. Corridors become veins. Elevators become throats. Engines become hearts. Doors open like mouths. Cities breathe through vents. Machines sleep, wake, pulse, digest. This is where architectural horror becomes body horror, because a body is supposed to have boundaries, inside and outside, living and dead, person and environment. But a living structure destroys those boundaries. If the building is alive, then entering it becomes a form of ingestion. If the city is alive, then citizenship becomes parasitism. If the machine is alive, then maintenance becomes surgery. If the ship is alive, then travel becomes being carried inside a creature whose intentions you cannot read. This image is ancient. The belly of the whale, the maze of the beast, the underworld with organs of stone. Megastructure fiction modernizes it. It turns the monster's body into infrastructure. And that may be the most disturbing idea of all. Not that the monster is inside the building. Slow, vast, reflective ending. But that the building was always the monster. Section 10. Why we are drawn to them anyway. Here's the strange contradiction. Megastructures terrify us, but we keep looking at them. We want the camera to pull back. We want to see the full shape. We want the door to open. We want to know how far down it goes. We want to understand what it was built for, even when the answer will make us feel smaller. This is because awe and fear are not opposites. They are neighbors. Both begin when the mind encounters something larger than itself. The difference is whether we believe that largeness includes us. A cathedral says, "You are small, but you belong inside the story." A monument says, "You are small, but the nation remembers you." A natural landscape says, "You are small, but you are part of life." A horrifying megastructure says something else. "You are small." And that is all. Conclusion. Fictional megastructures frighten us because they expose a wound we usually keep covered. Slow, vast, reflective ending. We want to believe the world is scaled to us. We want rooms to fit our bodies. We want stories to fit our lives. We want danger to have a face. We want meaning to be something we can stand near without being crushed. But megastructures refuse that comfort. They show us doors too large for human hands. They show us cities without horizons. They show us machines older than memory. They show us beauty without warmth, order without mercy, purpose without explanation. And in front of them, we feel the truth we spend most of our lives avoiding. We are not afraid because the structure might fall. We are afraid because it might not, because it might remain silent, vast, unmoved, long after every name we know has disappeared. And somewhere inside that impossible architecture, a human voice becomes what it always was, a small sound, briefly echoing, then gone.